Let the record show that the regular Riverview City Council meeting is called to order at 7 p.m. on March 20th, 2023. Will the city attorney please take roll?
Blanchett.
Here.
Ganga.
Here.
I'm sorry, Ganaga. Norton.
Here.
O'Neill.
Here.
Robbins.
Here.
Mayor Swift.
Here.
And Workman is excused.
Councilman Workman is excused. Yes, thank you. Tonight we have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilman Norton and invocation by Councilwoman O'Neill. Will you please rise?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Precious Lord, we thank you for the many blessings, and we ask that you might bless our elected officials in their decision-making matters for the best of our community. Amen.
Amen. Jeff, any announcements before we get going?
Yes, Your Honor, we do have a couple of announcements. Mike Kettler in the Golf Department. We will be having a job fair at the golf course this Saturday from 10 to 1. We'll do on-spot interviews there, and I think Jeff from the DPW will also be there looking to hire a couple people.
Anything else?
Yes, Your Honor, Mr. Todd Dickman in the Recreation Department.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to let everyone know that this year the Recreation Department will be bringing back its Hippity Hop Easter Stroll again around the pond, and that is going to be on Saturday, April 8th. The stroll will be starting at 11 and going till noon as long as supplies still last with the people that are coming out to pass out, and we are going to have local businesses, organizations come out and pass out goodies for the kids. So if you have time that day, please stop by. And if you want to be a participant of it, contact our recreation department to help pass things out for the children. Also, I did want to let you know that the Recreation Department, for our second year now running, we are going to have our Earth Day program where we're going to try to get out and help clean up some of the parks here in Riverview. We have chosen the Vreeland Memorial, Young Patriots, and Coachwood Parks for people to come out and help us get them ready for the spring. So Earth Day is on Saturday, April 22nd, and we'll be doing that from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. We'll be meeting in Young Patriots Park, and we'll also be planting a tree that day. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. Anything else, Jeff?
No, Your Honor, that would be it.
I do have one quick one for those who are fans of the Under the Radar show. They were filming at Fat Daddy's today as part of our contract with Destination Downriver. They set us all up. They interviewed Chef Jay and his crew there. And the host, Tom Dolan, and Jim Edelman got to taste the food. And so watch for it. It was a Facebook Live, they called it like a mini podcast. Normally do it Facebook Live, but they had some equipment issues. So they recorded it, and it'll be on Facebook tomorrow. It should be posted by tomorrow afternoon. So all this is in a series of things that we have contracts with Destination Downriver, where it's promoting all downriver communities on the show, and with the contract with Under the Radar staff, they'll do one complete show a year dedicated totally just to downriver communities. So we didn't make the first one last year. Hopefully we make this one. So they'll this may or may not be part of the show. I don't know. But watch for it on Facebook tomorrow. It should be pretty educational, and it's supporting one of our very viable businesses that we have going. So with that, I'll look for 5-1 approval of the minutes.
Your Honor,
Of the.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Todd, what's the time on the cleanup?
We're going to be doing the cleanup from 10 a.m. to noon on Saturday, April 22nd.
Got that. Thank you. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Approval of minutes. Approve the minutes of the 3/6/23 regular Riverview City Council meeting and the condensed version for publication. What's council's pleasure?
So moved.
Support.
Motion by Councilman O'Neill, supported by Councilman Robbins. Any discussion? Roll call.
Ganaga.
Yes.
Norton,
Yes.
O'Neill,
Yes.
Robbins,
Yes.
Mayor Swift,
Yes.
Blanchett.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Excuse me. Tonight, we have no public hearing. Now is time for public comment. Anyone wishing to address the mayor and council, please approach the podium. State your name and address for the record. Try to keep your comments to 5 minutes. There is no sharing of time and no rebuttals, and please be respectful. Yes, sir.
Elmer Trombley, 17738 Brinson Street. I have a question for the councilman. Chuck? I want to know why you keep telling the residents of this city that my petitions are fraudulent. You're lying to them, and I want to know why you're lying to them. Because I had double the signatures, and they were all good. And I talked to Cindy, I don't know where she is, but I talked to Cindy about the signatures. And she said, I know you had one that they forgot to put the address on, so that won't count. But they weren't fraudulent. So why are you telling everybody they're fraudulent? Or don't you have an answer?
Well, Elmer, we don't engage at this part of the meeting, but...
Well, I'm asking why he's
I will leave
doing
it up to
that.
Councilman Norton if he wants to respond during other business, so if you can stick around. At other business, he'll address it if he wants.
What's that?
Okay. At the agenda, under other business, is when we answer the questions. So just stick around a little bit.
Dino Papadopoulos. I have a little excerpt from the past, October 13, 2011, Riverview City Council meeting. Time 9 minutes, 43 seconds in after Bill Toll's 5 minutes. Mayor Duran. Okay, Mr. Toll, that concludes your time. Mr. Toll, last week I asked you about something. You started off by attacking my credibility through your spiel here. And one of the reasons I'm not debating you is you have absolutely zero credibility with me, and I'm going to tell you why. I've asked you on several occasions about your petitions. I'm only here this evening for this half hour so I can let you know what I'm going to be doing so you don't say I'm trying to pull something on you or not being forthright. I've had somebody come forward and they told me that they signed that petition for your nephew, Kevin Toll, not you, and you affirmed in a signed affidavit that you submitted to the city clerk that you got that signature. He identified other people that signed it too at his place of employment. I'm going to give you this opportunity to answer one more time. Did you collect all the signatures on these 3 petitions that you submitted? Candidate Bill Toll. Mr. Mayor, if you read, okay, Mayor Durant, did you? I asked. Candidate Toll. Will you let me answer, or are you going to keep rambling on? I don't have much respect for you either based on your actions. Mayor Durant. Mr. Toll. Candidate Toll. No, Mr. Durant, are you going to let me answer or not? Councilman Elmer Trombley. Get him out of here, will ya? Mayor Durant. Mr. Toll. Mr. Toll. Candidate Bill Toll. Why don't you leave? Mayor Durant. Mr. Toll, it's a yes or no question, yes or no. I'm trying to be calm. Candidate Toll. I asked you if you were familiar with MCL 168.544, Section 311, approval for petitions. Read Section A, B, and C, and we can discuss this in full. Candidate Bill Toll turning to leave. Mayor Durant. Did you sign? Candidate Bill Toll. No, until you become educated, sir, on the law. Mayor Durant. Be quiet. Candidate Toll. No, you be quiet, Mayor. Mayor Durant. Calm down. Candidate Bill Toll. You make allegations, you run your mouth about something you don't know about. Are those my petitions, Mayor? Mayor Durant. Holding documents. Yes, these are. Candidate Toll. Well, you should read the law, Mayor, because you shouldn't even have them in your possession. Mayor Durant. Mr. Toll, did you get these signatures? Candidate Toll. I told you, Mayor, read the act in full and I will discuss it with you openly. Mayor Durant. Okay, you've answered. Let me ask you one other question since you won't answer that. Candidate Toll. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever read the Open Meetings Act? Mayor Durant. Mr. Toll, I'm asking you a question. Candidate Toll. Do you abide by that law? Mayor Durant. I'm going to ask you one more question. Candidate Toll. I don't know. You always ask one more question. Mayor Durant. Do you believe if someone commits election fraud that they are worthy to serve in office? Candidate Toll. Mayor, you commit election fraud all the time. Mayor Durant, thank you for answering. Candidate Toll, I tell you I read the law and we can address it so the residents can see what a buffoon you really are. Thank you. Mayor Durant, just want to repeat this for the audience. You're done, Mr. Toll. At the bottom of the petition it states, warning, a circulator knowingly making a false statement in the above certificate. A person not a circulator who signs as a circulator, or a person who signs a name other than his or her own name as a circulator is guilty of a misdemeanor. Inaudible sounds. Mayor Durant. You're done, please. More inaudible sounds. Mayor Durant. Mr. Toll. More inaudible sounds. Councilman Elmer Trombley. Get him out of here. 12 minutes and 30 seconds in. After mayoral candidate Putnick, 5-minute session. Councilman Elmer Trombley. Your Honor, I'd like to ask a question. Mr. Putnick, do you remember ripping up the fire department over going down to the Joe Louis Arena and picking up the fire alarms, 345 of them? Candidate Putnick. You said that, Councilman Elmer Trombley. I got the floor. No, Candidate Putnick. No, you, Councilman Elmer Trombley. I got the floor. That Henry Zettelberg donated because of our fire chief put in for him and we were picked, and you thought that was a big liability we give them out to the senior citizens and residents that want them. You talk like a hypocrite. You know, first you give them awards and then you rip them up. I wonder if all your petitions were signed legally. Candidate Putnick. Aha, Elmer. Councilman Elmer Trombley. I know they weren't. That's it. Candidate Putnick. That's it? Okay, good. Why don't you go to YouTube, listen to that thing you're telling me I'm saying, because I think your memory fails you, which it does quite a lot. Councilman Elmer Trombley. No, my memory. I tell you what, if you don't like Riverview the way you complain about it, why the hell don't you move out? Mayor Duran. Okay, Elmer, that's enough. Councilman Elmer Trombley. That's what I say to you and everybody else that's got all the big complaints. Mayor Duran. Mr. Putnick, thanks. Councilman Elmer Trombley. Move out, Mayor Duran. And you answered him and we're done after inaudible sounds. More inaudible sounds, Mayor Durant. Well, when you get on council, you be able to talk all you want. Well, I guess not. You won't. Sighs from the council table, and the mayor looks to the right. If I missed anything, you can catch it on downriverpress.com, and I'll update it every week.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to address the mayor and council?
Bill Toll, 17861 Devonshire. That was kind of an interesting review of the past. I will address the chair with two questions. One is for you, Mayor. The other is for Councilman Norton. My first question is Chuck Norton, who posted in the Riverview Residents Discussion Board on March 9th the following. We, the City Council, have had many people contact us about being lied to by those passing around the cannabis petitions, stated what it was about. We also have some saying they didn't sign it, yet their name was turned in. My first question to Chuck, who is we, the City Council? What other council members receive calls from the residents about being lied to by those passing around petitions? My second question to Chuck. David Prey was the only individual identified in that posting that stated his name was on a petition and he did not sign one. Since your post implied wrongdoing but failed to provide evidence supporting that assertion, you could personally review those petitions if you chose to do that to confirm the validity of David Prey's comments regarding his signatures. If, after your review, you find his name on a petition that he claims he did not sign, you should post that in the Riverview Residents Discussion Board to support your concerns expressed in that post. My second question is to you, Mayor. In reference to that article in the Riverview Register, I thought it was a good article anyways, with revenue down, the city seeks creative solutions. And again, these are your words. The City Council is in the process of addressing budget issues that required us to file a deficit elimination plan with the state of Michigan. You went on to say that many options with the council will take advantage of. One of those options will be some sort of increase in taxes. Residents will be informed of what options are available to council and will be given the chance to vote on those options. What is the projected shortfall? And I'll wait to the close of the meeting for your response. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to address the mayor and council?
I'm so glad I came tonight.
Welcome.
David Prey, 13740 Huntington. So, let's take a look at this petition. About a month and a half ago, I posted on that Riverview residents page when one of the petitioners came to my house lying to me about what the reason for the petition was. And it was so obvious that they were lying that I took a photograph of what they had told, or what it was asked being signed and what they told me. I then got the petitioner's name and then his boss's name. I wouldn't have been doing all this if I hadn't been lied to. Now, it's been come to my attention that apparently I did sign a petition. Certainly wasn't the one in my house because I wouldn't talk to my neighbors about it, and they all refused to sign that petition when they found out the petitioners were lying. So we don't have to wait till other business. I'll answer those questions. At least 4 of my neighbors all said the exact same thing, that they were being lied to about what the petition was for. Now, about a month ago, I came to this city council meeting, and I brought this issue up. Said flat out, I don't care whether you're for marijuana, whether you're against it. I don't smoke it. I don't want my son smoking it. I don't want him eating it. I don't care whether it's in the city for people's recreational use or not. What I do have a problem with, and I quoted my grandfather and my father about a month ago, if a man will lie to you about one thing, be assured he will lie to you about everything else. Now, all these comments are being made by 2 former city council members who have every plan on running for the next city council. I don't care. Whether you like them, whether you don't like them, none of my business. Here's where I have a problem. If you're going to blatantly lie to the residents and I find out about it, trust me, I will bring it up. All right? Now, I put way too much time and too much effort into this city. I haven't run for city council. I haven't run for your honors job because, frankly, I don't have the temperament for it. Where you guys can sit there and listen to the abuse that you guys get is laughable to me because, frankly, I couldn't do it. But here's what cracks me up. You have the same people who come to these meetings every single week or every single meeting. They lodge criticism at you guys. There's a reason why they're former council members. For those of you that are up there that are thinking about not running because of those criticisms, you should make sure that you keep running. Trust me, every criticism you guys get, there's 100 residents who couldn't tolerate it like me. But be assured, a lot of you guys are supported. We all make mistakes. I'm by no means perfect, but I try to make up with it by doing things for the city. Now, I've proposed a couple ideas to some of the city council members. Mayor, I spoke with you about it once. I talked to Parks and Recreation about it. I've talked to a few of you city council members. I would really like to put that plan in action, or in the very least have a study session about my idea. I think it would bring great revenue into the city. With that being said, for those of you that are talking about this city, the petition that are going on, again, I don't care where you stand on the issue. I really don't. But if you're going to put a petition around and you're going to ask for signatures, be honest. Tell the people what.
Mr. Prey, we addressed.
You're right. I apologize. Just be honest. That's all I'm asking. If you're going to lie to the residents, please believe me, that will revisit you in the next election. And don't think for a minute the residents aren't going to remember who was honest and who was untruthful. Now, I'm sure that the reason for this petition came from a good place. Some people have very strong feelings one way or another. I'm not one of them. If it doesn't affect me and it doesn't affect my family, I don't care. If it's not hurting anyone, I don't care. What I do have a problem with is the lack of honesty. All right? Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Anybody else? I've learned to wait. Okay, thank you. Excuse me, 8.1, appoint to the Economic Development Corporation and Brownfield Redevelopment. Excuse me, we're looking for appointment of Mr. Ricky Travis for a term to expire April 1st, 2029. 2029. What's council's pleasure?
So moved.
Support.
Motion by Councilwoman Ganaga, supported by Councilman Norton. Any discussion? Roll call.
Norton,
Yes.
O'Neill,
Yes.
Robbins,
Yes.
Mayor Swift,
Yes.
Blanchett,
Yes.
Ganaga.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Is there any item council wants removed from the consent agenda? Seeing none, 9-1, approve special events application from Grace, it's supposed to be Grace Point Church to hold a kids' Easter egg hunt and marshmallow drop in McShane Park on Easter Sunday, April 9th, 2023. And budget amendment, 9-2, a budget amendment finance. What's council's pleasure?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Support.
Motion by Councilman Norton, supported by Councilman Robbins. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
O'Neill,
Yes.
Robbins,
Yes.
Mayor Swift,
Yes.
Blanchett,
Yes.
Ganaga,
Yes.
Norton.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Ten one, initiative petition submitted by qualified and registered electors, residents in the city of Riverview pursuant to Section 6 of the Michigan Regulation and Taxation of Marijuana Act to reinstate the city's marijuana moratorium and to disallow the sale of marijuana in the city. Before we get started, I don't normally do this, but I will read the background that was supplied to us. It says, community impact background. A ballot petition has been submitted pursuant to Section 6 of Michigan Regulation and Taxation of Marijuana Act, initiated Law 1 of 2018, seeking to overturn the city's recently adopted cannabis business license ordinance and reestablish a prohibition of the sale of recreational marijuana in the city. The city clerk has verified the petitions, has the requisite number of valid signatures, and has certified the petitions. Pursuant to Section 711 of the Riverview Charter, council shall, within 30 days after receiving the certified petition from the clerk, will do either, number 1, adopt the ordinance as submitted by the petition, 2, repeal the ordinance or subpart or part thereof referred to by a petition, or 3, determined to submit the proposal provided for the position to the electors. So I've asked the city attorney to give us the 10,000-foot overview of what's transpired over the weekend with several questions from council and public as they relate to the petition, the validity of the petition, the validity of the signatures, and of the solicitors, I guess would be what you would call them. Go ahead.
Thank you. So just by way of background, the statute in Michigan regarding marijuana establishments was served as the legal basis for the petition. The petition explicitly references the marijuana statute as the basis upon which it is seeking to be placed before the electors in the next election. However, the statute itself doesn't go so far to entirely preempt the entire field of initiative and referendums. The city's charter has a extensive discussion of these types of processes. The charter, of course, is the authorization, it's the authority by which the city may operate pursuant to the state law. And so it's incumbent upon us to try and give effect to the statute as well as the charter, which was established by the people, and the statute, of course, by the legislature, the people's representatives. When it comes to the current question, the statute only provides that petitions or referendums like this should be submitted to the electors. The charter isn't in conflict with that statute. The charter simply provides two other options. One, the city council can decide to simply repeal its former marijuana ordinance. Secondly, it can decide to grant the petitioners request to set that aside and thus reinstate the status quo before that. Or 3, it can allow the city council to refer the matter to the electors, which is sort of a restatement of the statute. So there's not a conflict between the charter, and our job is to try and honor the charter and follow it as well as follow the statute. Only where a statute and an ordinance conflict, where one prohibits what the other permits, or one permits what the other prohibits, then you have a conflict, and then one controls entirely versus the other. So in this case, since the charter permits the matter to go to the electors, it doesn't conflict with the statute which requires it. If the city council were to take no action on this today, then the matter would revert to the statute and it would be sent to the electors. If they take any other action other than repealing the marijuana ordinance or approving the petition which has the effect of repealing the ordinance, then the third option is kind of the default option. So that is like the beautiful field of law, of field preemption. I'd be happy to talk to anyone for several hours after this meeting as these fascinating subjects. But my client says sometimes I'm a little wordy, so that's the problem with being an attorney. So we're trying to give effect to both of these. There's not a conflict. I don't see a conflict here. So when a motion is made, it'll be to choose one of these 3 options in our charter, and then the votes will be cast and decisions will be made and go on accordingly.
So with that, and obviously we're going to have some discussion, but I do want to say this for the record, and I'm speaking for myself, and I would assume the rest of the council would be in support of this, that myself and the city council has nothing to do with the petition itself. We didn't have anything to do with the financing of the petition, the developing the petition, collecting the petition, circulating the petition. That was all done by a resident who, along with himself and other paid circulators, were responsible for getting those petitions signed. I will say, in addition to what Councilman Norton had said earlier about council getting calls, and I said this before, Councilman Norton, I think we have 2 different audiences who we deal with a lot. I personally have had not one call about people who signed it, who said their signatures appeared, they didn't sign it, but I am well aware of from other people who have stated that purpose. So I will make the assumption that there was at least a number of people that were either misled or weren't given the truth on what the position or the petition said. But with that, anybody here who felt that their petition is, or their signatures on the petition, and it shouldn't be, I would encourage them to file a police report with our police department, with the chief, put it in writing, because my opinion, there's so much rhetoric out there on Facebook and social media. All we can really act on is if somebody actually fills out a complaint, then some action can be taken. And none of the action will happen unless somebody files a complaint. And Chief, I might be wrong, but I have to assume there have been no complaints up to this point.
That's correct, Your Honor, none that I'm aware of.
Okay. So nothing will happen unless somebody speaks up. So, and then we have, would have a direction to go. So with that, I'll open it up for discussion before any action is taken here. Before us is those 3 options that I presented earlier. So I don't know how we want to go with this, but I'll open it for discussion now, whoever wants to go first.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilman Norton.
Yes. As for the questions about this, we'll take care of that during other business. I would make a motion to accept number 3, determined to submit the proposal provided for in the petition to the electors.
Is there support?
Support.
It's Supported by, let's see, it would be a tie.
I don't care.
All right. Councilwoman O'Neill. Any further discussion? Then I will just add that I think this is the right decision by this board, this council, that in the end, I know this was suggested earlier, that this go before the vote of the people, but I think, I know, Carrie, you probably weren't ready for this, so before we take roll, what will this mean to the dispensaries who will be in operation likely by the end of this year? What does this mean to them? Number one, if the referendum fails in November, and what is the impact on them if it passes in November?
Sure, we can address that. So assuming this motion, Council members Norton's motion passes here tonight, the petition will go before the voters in August if you have a primary. If not, it'll go before the voters in November of this year for the voters to, the electors or voters to decide the fate of marijuana in the city of Riverview. Until that time, the ordinance is still effective, the marijuana ordinance, and the applications can still be filed. And to the extent licenses are granted that qualify under our business license and zoning laws and these kinds of other matters, all are referenced in the ordinance or as to be amended, those will have a right to continue operation. Their licenses are issued on a one-year basis, and if licenses are issued between now and this fall, and the voters do vote to set aside or to repeal the marijuana licensing ordinance, which authorizes licensees, then the licensees will not have any ordinance on which to rely on for renewal of their license after the expiration of their one-year licensing period. And that would be the end of it. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir, it does. Thank you very much. Councilwoman Ganaga.
I just had a question. So if we go ahead and pass this and then it goes to the voters, I've had a lot of people calling saying there's confusion. They want to vote yes for marijuana, so they actually need to vote no when they are at the polls. Is that correct?
Well, the petitioners have chosen to phrase their petition in such a way that it is kind of upside down like that.
Just clarifying,
But-
thank you.
No, that's a really good point. Unfortunately, I think just the way that most of those petitions work, this will be one of those you have to vote, yes, I don't want it.
But I would quickly add that there'll be probably some groups with views on the subject that will be advocating one views or another view. And it really is for the petitioners and the opponents of the petition to make the arguments to the public as to that particular matter. But that's my understanding is that it's sort of the way the language is worded, in which we had no authority or control over, that what you suggested would be the way to fly.
There will be a measurable education campaign, I'm sure, on both sides of what whoever the group they're getting information from is. They'll do some education. I'm sure there'll be people at the polls also passing out information. So for us, I mean, right now I think we have scheduled 4 dispensaries scheduled to open. So if this does pass, then they wouldn't be able to renew their licenses next July.
If this passed, meaning the motion here today, or?
Well, no, in November, when the election comes.
And so if let's not use passed, let's say the ordinance is set aside by the voters, the marijuana ordinance, then there would be no process by which a licensee could say, I want to renew my license, we'd say, well, under what authority, and there would be no authority to do so.
All right, any
Your
further
Honor?
discussion?
Yes, Your Honor.
Councilwoman Blanchett.
Didn't we start this to protect the city, to put something on the books to prevent just anybody coming in and opening up a marijuana dispensary? I'm pretty sure I've got most of that right, but if we postpone it, how does that affect us as far as having something on the books to protect the city from just anyone walking in and opening up?
Yeah, so without a license from the local unit of government, there's no authority to engage in this business within the city. So it would return us to the status quo before all this happened, to a moratorium state.
Okay, that's not going to jeopardize us in any way, is it? The city? As far as maybe someone, yeah, as far as someone potentially suing us?
Well, we don't like to speculate in a public session about lawsuits. Why would anyone want to sue the city? But I think that the idea that the license would be an annual license would be a very heavily weighted proposition, and as long as there was no interference during that licensing period, that 1 year, then I can't see a basis. If that is the most indirect, obtuse answer I could provide to you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Robbins?
Yes.
Mayor Swift?
Yes.
Blanchett?
Yes.
Ganaga?
Yes.
Norton?
Yes.
O'Neill?
Yes.
Motion passes. Number 3.
Thank you, Carrie. We have nothing under administration. Ordinances, 12-1, authorized second reading by title only and adoption of proposed ordinance number 740 to amend the zoning ordinance for the city of Riverview by the repeal and readoption of the applicable zoning districts to be consistent with the recently adopted cannabis license ordinance. What's council's pleasure?
So moved.
Support.
Motion by Councilwoman Ganaga, supported by Councilman Norton. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mayor Swift?
Yes.
Blanchett?
Yes.
Ganaga?
Yes.
Norton?
Yes.
O'Neill?
Yes.
Robbins?
Yes.
Motion pass.
Now I would look for a motion to,
Nope.
oh,
You got to read it. Carrie's going to read it.
well, okay. All right. Go ahead, Carrie.
Sorry.
I know we do it twice, I just didn't remember the order.
Yep.
This is the second reading.
Cindy's not here to hold my
Yeah.
hand.
This authorizes second reading by title only and adoption of proposed ordinance number 740 to amend the zoning ordinance for the city of Riverview by the repeal and readoption of the applicable zoning districts to be consistent with the recently adopted cannabis business license ordinance, Planning Commission and Community Development.
Now I look for a motion to adopt. By
So moved.
Support.
Councilwoman Ganaga, supported by Councilwoman O'Neill. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Blanchett,
Yes.
Ganaga,
Yes.
Norton,
Yes.
O'Neill,
Yes.
Robbins.
Yes.
Mayor Swift,
Yes.
motion passed.
Okay, we have, any other business council wants to bring up at this point? So I will turn it over to Councilman Norton if he wants to address Mr.
Thank you,
Cole's
Mr.
question.
Mayor. As to Mr. Elmer Tromley asking why do I keep telling people the petition was fraudulent, I haven't told anybody that the petition was fraudulent. What I have, sir, I haven't, you had your time.
Look, Elmer, please. Pal, okay.
Can I continue, Mr. Mayor?
Councilman Norton.
Yes. I have had many phone calls from people saying they were lied to by the people that approached their door, saying that they were signing a petition because they were in support of cannabis. So I've had a lot of people call me. Nobody came to my door. I was waiting with coffee on to see the petition so I could read it myself. So I don't know who these people are that you're talking about, but I haven't said to anybody that the petition was fraudulent. I have a copy of the petition. I read it. It isn't fraudulent. There are some names crossed out. Maybe they're not registered voters. So there's your answer, Mr. Tromley. As to Mr. Bill Toll, I brought up the Facebook post that I posted. I said, we, the city council, have had, and then capitalized, many people contact us about being lied to what those passing around the cannabis petitioners stated what it was about. We also have some saying they didn't sign it, yet their name was turned in. Here is the recommendation we as a council received. If you felt you were lied to, please read below and contact the Riverview Police Department. So, since Mr. Prey came up and spoke himself, he is somebody that called me and said, hey, I have this person on the thing saying this petition is for in favor of cannabis, but yet when I read it, that's not what it said. So I called the paid petitioner's boss, and he said that's what we were told to say. So when I went through the list and I saw Mr. Prey's name on it, I called him back. I said, I'm surprised you signed a thing when we talked on a Saturday afternoon about it. He said, I didn't sign it. And then, Mr. Toll, your next question was, who else on council? I only speak for myself, but I can say that I do have colleagues that we've had a lot of dialogue with each other saying, hey, did so-and-so call you because she's really upset that she was lied to? I will let my colleagues speak for themselves on if they had people contact them. If anybody would like to join in.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilwoman O'Neill.
I also have received numerous phone calls of people saying that they were told it was to be in favor. So I also was one of those.
Your Honor,
Councilwoman Ganaga.
I actually have a family member that was just told that if they wanted marijuana to be able to be sold in the city, they should sign in favor, and they did. And when I saw this person's name on our emails when we received the ballot lists with everyone's names, I called them and asked them why they would do this when they were for it, and she said, yes, I signed in favor of it. I said, no, the ballot says if you are not in favor. And she said, that's not what the person told me. And I said, well, did you read it at the top? She said, no, I explained I just had cataract surgery, glaucoma surgery, something, and couldn't read it at that time. And they told me that if they wanted to have marijuana dispensaries in Riverview and were for it, to sign it. This is one of my family members who was very shocked when I called them and they were lied to.
Well, then I'll just add.
Mr. Mayor,
go ahead.
I wasn't finished. We've had a lot of people call us wanting to know about the petition. We have received the petition. We are not allowed to share that. Anytime somebody calls me about the petition, what I recommend is to contact the city clerk and FOIA it. That way you can see it, but we can't share with you the petition. There have been some names scratched off. I don't know why. Maybe they're not a registered voter and all of these different things. What I'm concerned about is Mr. Tromley created this petition. He has that right as a resident. I'm shocked that you would pay people to drive from Flint to go door to door, and in the future, any resident that pays for people to do petitions, that's great. But I would do a background check on who you have going to our elderly residents' houses and what type of criminal records they have. I'm done here, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, I will just add, as far as getting calls, I really haven't received calls from people who said they signed it and were told something else, but I do understand that that's out there. What the names I've looked on the petition, now here's where my struggle is. If the petitioners are out there telling people they're in support of the sale of marijuana in the city, and there's names on there, I know those people would never in a million years sign that petition if they were told that it's to allow the sale of marijuana. So my question is, how do they know who to tell that to and not to? So I would have to think that there may have been one or two saying that, certainly not all the time. But again, it all comes down to, as my opinion, you can say if it's anything different, is I read everything I sign. So
Yes.
I don't want to say too bad, but you really should read the petition on what it's all about. And I mean, that's what it comes down to. So again, I encourage anybody, especially somebody whose name appears on there, that says they didn't sign it, but the signature's been verified by our clerk and the state of Michigan, those signatures match, then they should file a police report and get that process going. But I would also like to add that I do know, Elmer Trombley has been taking a lot of heat for this, and he has every right to do this, as any citizen does. And he's been ridiculed, driven through the mud. And Elmer and I are very rarely on the same side of any subject, even what day it is. But he has the right to do what he did. And he's been called, you're just a disgruntled former city councilman, you need to go away. He's doing what he has every right to do. And I'm not going to criticize him for doing that. As a matter of fact, I encourage anybody, if this body makes a decision that many people are upset about, I would encourage them to take this type of action. We did not see this action when we raised the millage for the trash collection and when we did the landfill expansion. We didn't see that uproar. We didn't have anybody with petitions. So I'm saying that this is really unique, and that's why originally some of us suggested that this go before the voters, and that's where it's going to end up.
Your Honor,
Councilman Blanchett.
you're done?
I'm not done, but you can speak.
No, go ahead.
No, I'm done. Go ahead.
Okay. To our chief, say someone comes to you and says, don't know how my name got on this petition. What is my next step? I'm here at the police department. Could you walk us through what happens when they come in?
Sure, they'd have to file a report, affidavit saying that that's not their signature, and we would investigate it, and we would either handle it ourselves or send it off to the state police to investigate. And once the investigation's complete, if we thought there was a crime committed, we'd send it to the prosecutor. It'd be up to the prosecutor to decide if there'd be any charges.
Okay, and to our attorney, if this all comes, if a person actually does go to the police, sign the affidavit, it goes to the state of Michigan, and indeed their signature was falsified, does that null and void just that one petition, or what happens from there?
Good question.
Well, that's a good question. I think that the individual that made the complaint, I was lied to. The standard is knowing and intentionally. So if it's knowingly, intentionally, then to that one person, then I think at a minimum, that one person's signature would be disallowed. But more importantly, this is not merely a challenge to the petition, it's a challenge to the circulator. And so the circulator then would be exposed to liability or criminal prosecution. But that's the point. It's the circulator is now the subject of the inquiry, not the petition or the effects on the petition. So my answer is I don't see that the petition would be struck. I see that the offense, in your hypothetical, the offense would be that the circulator violated the law, if in fact the elements were met, that there was knowing and intentional. If it was negligent, if it was incompetent, that's not the standard. So, yes, the petition is unaffected. The circulator, however, has probably a need to retain legal counsel. So it works out in the end for everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Your Honor,
Councilwoman Ganaga.
just to answer one of your questions, the way that they would find out what side you're on and how to pitch which way you should sign is they start the conversation, hey, have you heard? Are you in favor or not? Oh, great, you're in favor? Sign here. Oh,
But they-
you're not? Great, sign here. And was the
But
difference.
according to Councilman, that's not what they were told. They were told to tell the people it's in support of
I'm just
the
saying.
marijuana.
I'm just answering your question of how they knew.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Norton.
as Mr. Prey said, he called the canvasser's boss in Flint, and that gentleman told Mr. Prey that that's what we were told to say.
That it's in support of marijuana, support of the selling of the marijuana.
Right. I never had anybody approach my door, so I don't know what was said.
And I didn't either, but that still conflicts with, they didn't say engage in a conversation first, get their feeling on it, then lie to them.
I understand that, and I agree with what you said. I mean, I've raised my kids, don't sign anything until you read it, But I could just tell you from the phone calls I've received, people upset saying, hey, it's not what I thought it was, and I'm like, well, there's not much we can do about it.
Well, I wouldn't be happy either if it happened to me, and I wasn't asked, but would have been prepared too. So, but we do need to address, before we close here, Councilman Toll's questions about the projected budget shortfall, why we filed a deficit elimination plan with the state. Can you kind of help me with that?
Yes, Your Honor, we filed a deficit elimination plan. One of the formulas is when current assets are less than current liabilities on the balance sheet, and therefore our current liabilities were less than our current our current assets were less than our current liabilities. So we had to file a correction plan, and we were able to provide a 5-year plan that we submitted. It came to council. The first one we submitted, we sent into the state. They had a few questions. We revised it and sent it back on, I believe, February 7th, if my memory is correct. And we still are waiting back for a final approved plan.
You guys done? Okay. With that, I will look for, I lost
Your
my
Honor.
sheet here.
Your Honor,
Councilman Robbins.
I just want to throw out there too, I also have had several conversations, too many, since the majority of council did vote to enact this in the first place. While I respect Mr. Trombley's right to, stand up for what he believes in, I hope that he realizes the potential financial impact it could have on the city, because we've already handed out licenses to people, and they've already started construction, and they have 1 year. And now that it is going to the people, that's perfectly fine. But this committee worked extremely hard with our legal representation to make sure Ts were crossed and Is were dotted. And now, I pray that it all works out, because I didn't have any part of what may come if this doesn't go. That's all.
I'm glad you brought the financial impact up, because I was trying to evaluate where we are, just with what's happened so far as what we've collected in the non-refundable license fees. We've had, I'm sure it's still the same, we had 9 applications, so it's $5,000 each, so it's $45,000. Once a license is, I'm assuming once a license is granted, that's when they pay the $10,000 community benefit. So is that correct, Dave? They have to get the license first before we collect the community benefit?
Yes, they have to get through they pay their application fee, they have to go through the planning commission approval process, then the license can get granted.
So, and they're at the planning commission right now, I do believe.
Two applicants.
Two of them, so, say we've collected 45 grand in fees so far, and I know it's really early in the whole process, but, and this is just a guess, and I'll see if I can get with Carrie or our attorney's office. My guess is we've spent at least 30 grand in legal fees developing the ordinance and with all the other ancillary activities that we've had to take place since then. So, and as Mr. City Attorney stated, we don't like to talk about lawsuits, but my opinion, there's several more coming. So we could end up being in a deficit with doing this, and the good thing is, for the city, if it passes, then we can recoup some of that. But in the meantime, we're racking up the attorney fees, and we knew this was coming. So my opinion is a lot of this could have been avoided by going to the people, but still there's going to be a cost for doing this.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Norton.
How much money did we spend trying to get a landfill since 2017?
I don't know, and if it was successful, the return would have been in the millions as opposed to the thousands, whatever.
But my question is, from 2017 until the Facility Inclusion Committee said no, did we spend attorney fees on that?
I'm sure there was a substantial amount in there, yes.
A substantial to $1 million?
I don't know what the attorney's fees, I don't have that number in front of me.
Right.
But obviously, there's the attorney's fees included in any action that we do.
Thank
Just
you.
saying that the potential for return is not as great here as it would have been for
Thank
the
you.
landfill.
You just made my point.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Your Honor,
Councilman Robbins.
you may not know this, so if you could direct me in the proper direction to find out. On an ordinance, has there ever been an ordinance in Riverview that the people have voted on and it hasn't been decided up here by whoever is the seated council?
What does that have to do with the marijuana?
I'm
I mean, if you want to
I'm
talk
asking-
process, this is probably the first process we voted on because of the importance.
Your Honor,
And
I'm asking a
look where we
question.
are because this is
I'm asking a question in other business.
I don't-
That's all. Who do I talk to?
I think that's already been asked, and that'd probably be a city clerk question, and we can make sure she gets it.
I did not hear that being asked, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Your Honor,
Councilwoman Blanchett.
I'm sorry, Councilmember Norton, I just can't let that one pass. That's not comparing apples to apples, although I understand what you were alluding to. There was a stimulated resentment towards a landfill expansion. That landfill has been, for all intent and purpose, our lifeline since its inception. And the powers that be turned against the city of Riverview, spoke with forked tongues, done just everything feasible to make sure that that landfill expansion, even if it cut off their nose to spite their face, was not going to come to fruition, period. And to judge that or compare it even with attorney fees, because our attorneys are exceedingly professional in both landfills and marijuana. That attorney's firm has got a kitchen cabinet full of attorneys that if you run into any type of difficulty as your city, they are going to get you the answers. They're going to follow through, and it's just, I just can't picture the relevancy of the two other than attorney firms being paid. Yeah, that's why we have attorneys. Big or little fees. And you betcha it probably costs us a whole lot more for the landfill attorney fees than it did this little marijuana thing we're banging around right now. And as the mayor suggested, we're going to lose money before we make money, because everything we're making so far is going into attorney fees. begs the question, do you want to do it by ourselves and see how good we can do it legally for our pittance every 2 weeks? I don't think so. But I respect your opinion, but I really don't think you're comparing apples to apples. Thank you.
Councilman Norton?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, through your chair,
Yes.
Councilwoman Blanchett, I understand what you're saying, and I agree with you that it is not apples to apples. My point is, whenever you're dealing with new situations, we have to include the attorney for our protection. And what the mayor is saying is correct. Yes, you do spend money on these things. But when it comes to the landfill, that was many, many years is what my point was. It took many, many years to finally get an answer, and it was very expensive, not for the 7 of us, for the 12,400 plus residents is what I was trying to communicate.
Any further discussion? With that, I'll look for a motion to adjourn into closed session for collective bargaining from Councilwoman Blanchett.
So moved.
Is there support?
Support.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ganaga,
Yes.
Norton,
Yes.
O'Neill,
Yes.
Robbins,
Yes.
Mayor Swift,
Yes.
Blanchett.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Let the record show we adjourned at 8:01.